Bonjour, everyone. Hi, this is Neshi Lokotz. Welcome to Communications from Home, right here on our Facebook channel, our Facebook page at Star Nations for a Star Nations organization. And so tonight is Tuesday, August 20th, and tonight's show is all about remembering. What's that about, right? Right. I just got to do a little something here. I'm going to find it. There we go. Tonight's show is all about remembering from our hearts. And our hearts contain all of our memories from all our lifetimes, right? And also the lives in between. And so at a soul level, we already know so much already. And so that's what tonight's show is about. I want to share with you a bit about my journey with Awakening Illuminated Heart, which took place a few years ago, and what's coming up in the future for that. So before we get too far down the road, though, because I know if I don't do this now, I'll forget. And if I forget, then, it's only my fault then. Let's see, what we're going to do is we're going to send the show, we're going to sprinkle, we're going to spread, we're going to send the live stream over to my news feed and my personal channel. Let's see. Gotta find it. There we go. Now, one of the things that I wanted to invite you to do is to do the same thing. Why? Is because as light workers, as energy workers, when we find some post or video or information, right, that's helpful to our spiritual growth, when we share it, it's kind of like paying it forward, or I call it the light worker's civic duty. Because if we were looking for it and it meant something to us, that means that it's going to mean something to someone else too. And it just makes it easier for them to find it. So if you wouldn't join me to do that, to do the sharing, and I am going to find our live stream. It's just going to take me a second here. Here we are. Turn down my phone, doesn't get all squelchy on us. All right, so I'm going to love it, and then I'm going to send it over to my news feed, and so that I can remind my friends that I'm live streaming. And I'm going to ask them if they'd like to come out to play. There we go. And we're going to put a little heart on that one. There we go. Now, I'm going to also send it over to one of our closed groups too, because Stephanie is probably pretty busy with her little boy right now. And so I am going to share it over to one of our groups. And actually, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Just to remind the peeps, right, that I'm live streaming. And please join us. I wish I could send the aroma, the scent that's in Star Nations Academy with me right now. I have decided to burn some white sage, and it smells so good in here. There we go. And we'll post that. Excellent. Here we go. Now, and before we jump into the information, okay, I want to share something with you guys. It's kind of important because it regards your possible subscription to Star Nations magazine. As you know, our partners over at Magcast had been ransom hacked, right? So, and that was about 3 or 4 weeks ago. They have been working really diligently on getting things for us restored and rebuilt so that we can publish our magazines, right? And I had intended to publish the Star Nations magazine August issue today, August 20th. I wasn't able to do that because we're having some glitches in the platform. And so we're going to have to wait a little bit and see what happens. All I can do is be patient with it. So I'm kind of passing it on to you, is that if you haven't been able to download the Star Nations magazine August issue on your any of your Apple devices, your iPad, your iPhone, your Macs. Yeah, you're gonna have to wait. Same way with Android phones or tablets. So we're hoping, got our fingers crossed, and we got our spiritual teams working on it, that we're gonna hopefully be able to publish within the next day or so. So hang in there with us, okay? And I'll let you know as soon as I can of anything that comes up, and so we can do that. All right. I'm just gonna check real quick to see who's in the chat. Okay. Hey, look who's here, Rob. Hi, Rob. It's always good to have you here. You know, he says, I used to know what's that about, but I forgot. I know. It's that ginkgo biloba, right? Christine's here, one of my sisters. Oh, it's so good to have you in the house, Christine. It's always good to have my sisters here. Hi, Linda. Linda's here too. And I Simonized the show. Of course you did. And Rochelle says, hello, Neshi. Hello, Rochelle. Oh, my good. Okay, thank you, Stephanie. I wasn't sure if you're going to be here because I know that you were kind of busy with your son. I'm glad you're here, though. And Rochelle says, still grounded. Me too. Me too. In fact, I did a little extra something. Thank you for sharing, Linda. I appreciate it. And Stephanie says, kiddo is grumpy and frustrated. We'll be listening in as can, and we'll catch the replay for sure. Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Thank you, Stephanie. And thank you for sharing before you have to leave. Thank you, Rochelle, for sprinkling it over there wherever you did. And Rob said, would you like me to post to the group for them? PM the details after the show. I did do the closed group for the live stream shows, and it looks like Stephanie did do the groups, so she probably hit the academy as well. So thank you, Rob, for offering to help. I do appreciate that. Hey, Jocelyn's here too. Hello, Jocelyn. He says, my temptation is not to go which eval on the hacker's ass. Well, you know, I'm not real fond of them either. But I have to say that this experience, because it didn't happen directly to Star Nations, but to one of our major partners, right? So it affected us, and it still is. Those tentacles go deep. And so it taught us a great deal, and we're still learning. We're still learning from it. And, you know, and everybody, all the publishers, there's over 350 publishers with Magcast, a total of 500, but there's some publishers who aren't publishing anymore or not yet. And so, yeah, we're all in it together. And so we're just kind of holding space and, you know, and hoping that, that the resolution to this last little hiccup is going to be easy and very graceful and happen like that, you know? So, yeah, we're just trying to be patient. Well, oh my goodness, Teresa's here too. Another one of my sisters. Hello, Teresa. It's good to have you here. You know, tonight's show, the topic, I always try to give you guys the background on it. How did I get to this topic, right? Yeah. Well, I was kind of sitting with the cards one morning, and the message kept coming through is, you know, is to take action. Take action. And it was talking about facing your fears and all this other stuff, right? Which is all good information. It really is. And I sat there and I thought, okay, so what part of that is for me? What part of that is for me specifically, right? And what came through from my spiritual team was they showed me it's a picture that was used for interior alignment. Oh my gosh, that really is a blast from the past. That is Awakening the Illuminated Heart. When I first started and trained to be a teacher in 2012, it was one of the gifts that was given to us, and it was an original painting by one of the teachers that followed Venvelo over from his other courses, right? And she painted this heart, And I used it on the class that's coming up in November. But it's a heart, and it's got the flowing of energy through the heart. And I flashed on that, and I said, okay, so what is that about? Awakening an illuminated heart. Because I don't teach that class anymore. I haven't in a while. And all I heard was, it's time. It's time. And I said, okay, so what about this show, this coming up show? What am I supposed to do with that? It's time. And it's like, no, it's do you remember? Because everyone has a place in their heart that we can go to that holds all of our soul's wisdom and memories. Yeah. And some would say that's the Akashic records. Your personal records reside there. And so I said, okay, but what does this have to do with the cards that were drawn? And I have to admit, we got transparency here, right? Is that because I haven't taught this in a really long time, and technically because I haven't met the criteria to continue teaching, and I knew I wasn't going to that, and I actually had resigned, right, as a teacher. And so, but I still have the memory, I still have the experience, I still have the training. And so to be able to offer it in a way that that matches me, right? That's what that's about. And so I really went into the place in the heart. And that's why I used the promo that I did for this show with the heart, with the illumination from the center of the heart, right? And actually, there's some people in the live chat that actually took that class from me way back when. And so it's going to be a little bit of maybe some good memories. It's like, oh yeah, I remember that. And so that's what tonight's about, is that do you remember? Because we all have that place in our hearts where our soul has all the memories already. And any question that we have, we already know at a soul level the answer, right? Yeah. And I know that one of the biggest questions that I always got when I was teaching Awakening Illuminated Heart is, how do I really know when I'm in my heart? How do I know it's just not my mental thoughts creating this, right? How do you know? And so we're going to talk a little bit about that, okay? So I'm going to take this picture down. Actually, you know what? I'm going to show it to you in a larger form. And with the hands that are reaching, they look like maybe they're reaching toward each other, and that's a possibility. Or that they're reaching for that sacred place in their heart, right? Because you're drawn to it. I remember searching for something more. And I wasn't even sure at the time that I was searching what it was I was looking for. I didn't know. All I knew is that there was more. And that was back in, I think it was 2002, something like that. And I was reading Drunvalo Melchizedek's information already back in the late 90s. The Flower of Life, volumes 1 and 2, ended up in my life too, soon after that in 2002. And so, it's all those synchronicities that happen, right? All those synchronicities. So we're going to be talking about our hearts, and where in our hearts does our soul keep those memories, right? The answers. Yeah. I just want to see who else is in the house. Rob is saying, you hear that hacker boy, I'm going to go. Yeah. Thank you, Rob. Oh my goodness, Minnie's here too. I'm watching during dinner. Well, enjoy your dinner, Minnie. Minnie is another one of my sisters. So I have 3 of my sisters in the house. Yahoo! I love it. Yeah, it is. It really is pretty, isn't it? I liked it a lot. Um, okay, so how does this go? When I was searching for that more, I don't know if any of you have gone through the same thing or going through it. Um, you feel like there's something more out there and you don't know what it is. It's like, I was still doing a lot of reading and that's really interesting, but that's not it. That's not it. And then I found I found The Flower of Life, Volume 2, The Ancient Secrets of the Flower of Life, Volume 2 by Drunvalo Melchizedek. I was at a bookstore and it literally, it was on the very top shelf. It was oversized books. And I pulled it down and I thought, what is that? Because it's got that, I think it's a blue colored book. And I thought, oh, that's a really interesting color. And I took it down. And when I had it in my hands and I turned it over, it was like, um, that's what you call it, thunderstruck, right? It's like I knew I had to get that book. Looking at the cover of it, I knew I had to read it. And so I bought it and I read it. And it's not an easy book to read, but it's a very fascinating book. And in that book, he starts to talk about the Merkaba, which is our energy, our light body that's around us. It's filled with sacred geometry, right? And so I started reading about it, and I knew in my heart that I recognized it, and that's something that I really wanted to know more about. And in the back of the book is a pattern to make a 3D Merkaba. Okay. And so I took it out, I made copies, and I tried and I tried and I tried. And I tried some more. I worked on that thing for like 3 or 4 days. I couldn't get it to match up. I couldn't get it to look the way it was supposed to look. And on the fourth day, I just threw away the instructions and I started playing with it, right? And I went to bed and I was talking to my spiritual team and I asked them to please help me because I feel like I know that it's supposed to go together in a certain way and I can sense it, but I get stuck at this one place, right? And so as I was falling asleep, I literally saw the pattern going together. So I got out of bed and I went down to my office and I put it together. And as I sat there, I was all excited. This was like, I don't know, 11 o'clock, 11:30 at night, nobody to talk to and say, look what I did. Paul was asleep. And so anyway, when I started going back upstairs and I realized, I never even Google searched Merkaba teachers in Wisconsin or in Illinois. And so I did. I went back downstairs and did a search. And lo and behold, there was a teacher who was about 30, 40 minutes from me near Madison, Wisconsin. And so anyway, I thought, I'm trying to remember her name. Her last name is St. Germain. What was her first name? Oh, anyway, it'll come to me. So anyway, I thought, okay, I should probably contact this lady. So anyway, I finally went to bed. The next day, I got a telephone call from a good friend of mine. And she says, what are you doing? What are you doing on solstice? I said, well, I haven't really decided yet. And she goes, would you like to go to a solstice party with me? And she says, it's at, I can't remember her first name, St. Germain's house. And I said, really? It's like, yep, I want to go. I'm there with you. And so, that synchronicity thing, right? So we went and we walked into her house. And when I got there, there were so many people I knew, people that worked for the state of Wisconsin that I didn't know that was even interested in the Merkaba. They were interested in activating their Merkaba. I had no idea they were interested in sacred geometry, right? lot of them. And so I was like old home week. I'm walking around saying hi to everybody. And so anyway, I was able to sit down and talk to Ms. St. Germain, because I can't remember her first name. And she wasn't going to be teaching a class in a while. And he said, well, okay, well, just let me know when you're ready. I said, I'd be willing to put down a deposit for the class. Well, she ended up calling me 2 days later, and she says, I'm going to do a class because you asked, I'm doing a class. And so she said, if we can get 6 people pulled together for this class, I'll do it. Took her 3 days, and she had 6 people. And so we had the class. And so that's when I got started with activating my Merkaba a long time ago. And it went permanent back in 2002. And that was the start of my journey with that. And why am I even telling you this tonight? It's because my team wanted me to tell that story, because they said there's so many more people out there that are searching for something that they know that it's more, but they don't know what it is. They can feel it, they can sense it. And even though we're in a different energy field than we were back in 2002, the feeling is still the same. It's still the same, because at a soul level, we already know, and our soul is telling us it's time. It's time to remember. It's time to remember. So tonight's show, we're going to be talking about that feeling about it's time to remember, and what do we do with it? What do we do with it? Okay. Here's a little something I want to share with you. It's coming from the Upanishads, and this is about 5,000 years old. And the Upanishads, there was a gathering of people. The Upanishads are from India, okay? And what they did was they gathered many people together. It was 100, I think it was 109. 108 people, because it came up to 9. 108 people. And they went through a meditation. And out of all of those people, they kept talking about a place within their heart that they went that was vast and as big as the universe, right? And it contained everything in the universe that was there. And so what they did was they condensed it down to a statement like this. And so all the thousands of years, this has remained one of those things that we look at and we think that when I first read this, I thought, this is part of it. This is so much a part of it. So I'm going to give it a solo here so you can really read it, especially if you're watching by your phone. It says, the little space within the heart is as great as the vast universe. The heavens and the earth are there, and the sun and the moon and the stars. Fire and lightning and winds are there, and all that now is and all that is not. The Upanishads. It's from the Breath from the Eternal. I don't know. Has anybody ever seen this before or heard of the Upanishads? If you have, please let me know in the chat. Okay. Yeah, thank you guys. See, it was a menopausal moment. Thank you, Minnie. Maureen. Thank you, Teresa. Maureen. That's right. Maureen St. Germain. I don't know why I couldn't remember her name. It was like a menopausal moment there. I knew it would come. Thanks, you guys. Those are my sisters. And so Rob is saying, me too, the more, right? Knowing or feeling that there's something more and not knowing what that is. And so you're searching. And in the search, it's a good thing. I mean, we're gathering information, right? And we're finding some really interesting things and actually, Rob, in our search and in our research, a lot of those things will come together. It's like a big puzzle. And you're going to say at one point, that's why I had to read that book. That's why I had to go to that class. That's why I had to buy those stones or those crystals, because it's all interconnected, and you're going to need those information or those tools along the way. All right. Rob's heard of them. Good. Excellent. And Stephanie says, I have a copy of the Upanishads up with the spiritual text on my reading list for October. Yeah, it's a very interesting read. It took me a while to get through it, but it's very interesting. It's so ancient, right? And yet when I read those passages, I feel like they're right here. And why? Is because they're right here in my heart. And I can feel the connection to it. Much more than I can make the connection with my mental mind. The mental mind plays catch up, right? It plays catch up. It's not that we don't need it, because we do. It just plays catch up. So many times when I was teaching this full time, there were some people who were saying, I just don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. And they were trying to make logical sense out of it first before they actually felt like they got the information or understood it. And really that this is the part where we experience, or at least it was my experience, that part of ourselves that comes with creativity, right? The non-logical part of ourselves takes the lead, because you're feeling it faster and more and deeper than your mental mind can grasp it. And this is where we have to kind of relax into it and have faith. Right? I don't know, there's some people in the chat who've been through the class, and the question is that, do you remember that? Do you remember when you felt, oh my God, that's it. You know, you could feel it. You felt elated. You felt happy. You felt joyful. It's like, I got that. I know that. I don't know how I know it, but I know it. And then there's other times when there was a level of maybe even frustration, or because we're trying to wrap our logical mind around it, right? And it's one of the things that Drenville, I think, way back when he put the curriculum together, because he started teaching these classes back in the 70s, right? Is he really put in a lot of left brain information so that we'd feed the left brain, and then we'd go into our hearts and do the heart work, and then feed the left brain and then do more work, you know. But he did that for a reason, is because in that past vibration, we really did, the royal we really did lead with our mental mind so much more. In the vibration that we find ourselves in today, which is much different than even in 2012, that many of us are more comfortable in our gift as an empath and taking in the emotions and the feelings first, right? And processing that. And then the mental mind comes in to balance out that information. Okay? Does that sound familiar to you? Does it? Because it did to me. And it's what I'm trying to say, it's okay. It's a different way of processing information than what we're used to. And at first it feels uncomfortable. It really does. And then when we relax into it, because we're more awake today spiritually than we were back in 2012, back in 2011. Okay, because Drenville created the School of Remembering, in Awakening the Illuminated Heart back in 2011 and 2012 is when he started training teachers again, right? The Flower of Life facilitators, all of that kind of deflated. The energy on it, left. And so he created something brand new. And it's still based on a lot of his work from the past, but it was brought into a different energy field in a different way. And here we are today. And this is what I'm getting from my team, is that we are in a different energy field than when I first learned the information. And so even today, it's more expanded than it was in 2012, in 2013, the last time I was down in Mexico. Yeah, Rochelle says, I've been feeling like that over a year. I know the feeling, Rochelle. I do. I know that feeling. Rob says the mental mind can't cut the mustard. In a way, it's a different. You know what's different, Rob? The difference is that we're not leading. The mental mind isn't leading the way in this. No, the heart is leading the way. The soul is leading the way. And the mental mind is needed, but in this case, it's a servant to the heart. And see, we're striving for balance, right? And I think that is one of the things that's changed in the vibrational field, is that in 2012 and 2013, we were using phrases like the mind being the servant of the heart, right? Which is, many people felt like it was flipped around, right? It was a 180. And today I'm feeling like it's more about balance. It's more about having that balance so that we're coming from our high heart. And, we place the high heart, let me take that down. We place the high heart between the heart chakra and the throat, right? Okay. That's the energetic point of it, the energy center of it. But where I think it's really coming from, I'm going to show you this diagram. Some of you will notice the familiarity, okay? Is that this particular, I'm going to see if I can, nope, I went the opposite. There we go. This diagram shows two torque fields, and the torque fields, when you look down at them, right, they look like a donut. And in this diagram, it's showing us how we take in universal energy, okay, through our crystalline tube, creating that larger toric field. And that larger toric field is about the same diameter as your sphere, your Leonardo sphere. For those of you who've taken the class, you'll know what I'm talking about. You really have to stretch to get to the outer edges of that larger field. Okay, but that's created by our crystalline tube and bringing in universal energy. And remember, universal energy is already at the frequency of love. So it's coming down through the top and up through the bottom, creating that toric field around us. So literally, when we have our Merkaba activated, it becomes the container for that toric field. And so we are literally surrounded by love. Okay, all right. But the really important field is the smaller one. The smaller one is created by the tiny space of our heart. It's the space that the Upanishads were talking about. And that too is at the frequency of love. But that is being generated by our tiny space of our heart. And the tiny space of the heart is known to be the holiest place on earth. And we all have one. Right? So that toric field created by the tiny space of the heart is a place that is a place that we go to, the tiny space where it is a unified field. So we can be in a unified field while we're still in a physical body, a spirit having the physical experience. Because there are many beliefs that we don't reach the unified field until we leave the physical body. Yeah. And so when you know about the tiny space of your heart and you've activated your Merkaba, your Merkaba is the container for that unified field. It is literally our ascension vehicle, which is another phrase I think is changing, or should be changed. Or should be changed. I'm going to take this one down. Okay. So, let's see. Let's see what Rob is saying. He's saying, it wasn't a class, but I was unable to process anything in my early 20s. But a seed was sown to read a book around 1993 that I could not read until I found an audio copy in 1997. It wasn't until I had my first Reiki session in 2014, after a long and rocky journey, that it even made sense. Okay. Thank you for sharing that, Rob. And that's a good segue to talk about why it's important for us to do our healing work, to heal those mental and emotional traumas, right? And really it is about removing the debris around our emotions and our mental mind so that we get to the point that we can actually start being in balance with the two, right? And every time we do a healing on those mental and emotional traumas, we remove a layer of debris that is blocking or impeding your connection to the tiny space of your heart. Okay. Now, what's surrounding the tiny space of the heart is a place called the sacred space of your heart. It's a larger space that contains all of your soul's memories. And some would equate it to the Akashic records, your personal records, okay? Your personal records. So that when we're able to actually make that journey to remembering is really about going into our hearts, having the ability, the opportunity to be able to go there and ask a question and find your answers within your own heart, your own soul, right? It's very empowering. It's very empowering to be able to connect information, dots, if you will, to fill in the cracks and crevices, to be able to bring that picture more into focus. and really to begin to understand and be able to use the wisdom that you've gained from this lifetime in your earlier years, and also to the other lives your soul has already experienced. Because our souls are thousands of years old, right? And so there's a lot of information there that can help you with your current life. That's where our gifts that we came in with, that I'm always talking about, got to use your gifts, that's where they're at. That's where you have access to them. And remembering how to use them. Remembering the depth and the breadth of them. Right? It's a space where you want to go to learn all about yourself. All about yourself, your soul. The tiny space of the heart, because it's the unified field, that is a place that is connected to the entire universe. The entire universe. So if you have if you have a question that goes beyond your Akashic records, you're asking global, humanitarian, you're asking universal questions, you'd want to go to the tiny space of your heart to be able to get the answer to that. It's a place that we can talk to anybody, any soul, whether they're in a physical body, in a physical life, or that they walked on and they're back in spirit. The tiny space of your heart, you can meet with them anywhere, anytime, in that unified field. The unified field is pure love and truth. Pure love and truth. The divine truth. Not your truth. Not a two-legged truth, but the divine truth. And so you can go there even to do your own healing work. If you have someone in your life that that you have that a very uncomfortable relationship with, whether they're here in a physical body or if they walked on, you can meet them there in your tiny space of your heart, and you can do the forgiveness work from there. And when you do that work from the unified field, it's instantaneous. You don't have to wait for it to unfold, right? And to work through the layers of the density here on Earth. It's you're doing it from soul to soul, spirit to spirit. Rochelle is saying, yes, she remembers. Well, Jane, hello, Jane. He says, yes, my soul song is leading the way through service. Exactly. The soul song. It's your original vibration, right? Your original vibration at a soul level that you came in with. And when we get here, in that first breath that we take as an infant, our vibration tends to change because we're in a denser place called Earth. The vibration is much different here. So we have to acclimate to that vibration. Ortrud Franklin, she talks about this, about how our soul, as it descends into this experience, we literally have to step down our vibration to feel comfortable here. And as babies, we're doing that, right? And then eventually we feel comfortable. We feel comfortable here. And and then it's a good way to segue to ascension, I think. The ascension, we've talked about it for a really long time, right? We've taught classes about it. We're working on it. I've been doing this for like 10 years. And I really feel that has shifted and changed. And we need to change our vocabulary around it. in what we call it, you know, because many of us have worked diligently and on our own healing work. And it's not to say that we're not learning our life lessons. As long as we're in a physical body, we're constantly learning, constantly gaining wisdom. But I think with the ascension piece, there are many of us that have completed our first soul contract and are working on our next soul contract that we were able to create while in a physical body and learning how to do that. And so I think that we have to expand our understanding of what ascension is, right? Because I believe that we are ascended beings, that it's already been complete. And for many of us, because we've been awake for so long, okay, that we are ascended beings. Not we're ascending, but we are ascended. And that's why we have so many shifts and changes in our spiritual teams. That's why so many of us are connected to the ascended masters, because they're really the only teachers that can teach us that at that level for our soul, right? For many things. Now, that doesn't mean that we're not going through our soul contract here as two-leggeds on earth, because we're still doing that. But you have to admit that our experiences are different. They feel different. They feel different. Donuts, I know. I said, in many of my classes when I was teaching this, Rob, and I'd get to, we'd explain the toric fields and what it looks like, looking down the donut. People were bringing in chocolate-covered donuts because those are my favorite. Chocolate-covered donuts. I'm not supposed to have those, but I'll have one or two, in a while during those classes. And donuts. Yeah. Hey, Deborah's here. Hi, Deborah. Good to have you here. She says it's been so long since I worked with Merkaba. I know. It's always there, though. And Linda's saying, I've never worked with my Merkaba. How do you get it activated? Good question, Linda. Excellent question. Well, in the old days, it was work. Let me tell you, it was work. It was created more from our minds. And when we did that creation, when we activated it, right, that meant that we had to energize it constantly to keep it up, right, activated. As soon as we forget our meditation, within 48 hours, it would collapse. And then we'd have to start all over again. And we were doing a certain meditation for 90 days without skipping a day for it to go permanent. Okay. Yeah, that was back in the good old days, early 2000s. So, right around 2012, my teacher, Brunwell Melchizedek, brought to us, we called it the organic way to activate your Merkaba. And it was really based on the work done by the Kogi Mamos down in South America. Okay, they're indigenous people who live up in the mountains, and they showed Drunvalo and talked to him about an energy field. That's what we called it. That's not what they called it. An energy field that's created from the heart. And it's called the language of no language. It's really the language of the heart. It's a vibration. It's not words. It's not the English language. It's not even an indigenous language. Okay? It's a vibration from the heart. And so the Merkaba is now activated by combination of your brain and your heart, right? That's generated from the heart, and yeah, you have to learn a creation method, which is a part of the Awakening Illuminated Heart classes. And when we activate it from the heart, it's automatically permanent. Why? Because it's created from the tiny space of your heart, which is that unified field, right? And in that unified field, it's all about love. And that is what the Kogi Mamos was trying to teach about Drundalo. Trying to put it in a way for him to be able to understand that it comes from the heart. It comes from the heart. The balance that we need comes from with the creation, because in creation you need the male and female, the divine masculine, divine feminine, right, to create. And so that's why you need the mind, but it is really the heart, which is the female, the sacred female, that actually does the birthing. That makes sense? Yeah. It's kind of hard to explain without going through the entire class. But the thing is that when you activate it from your heart, and it's in from that unified field, and it's already permanent. It's already permanent. And those of us that had already had a Merkaba and going through the class and having it and recreating it, okay, it was like it was upgraded. It was like it was upgraded. It's not even a 2.0. It's like a 3 or a 10.0, something like that. But when I did mine reactivation back in 2011, I think it was 11, maybe it was 12. I remember it being March. I was down in Arizona. Is that in the meditation, I could see and sense my Merkaba, right, that I had activated before. And when it dissolved, it was like confetti. It's almost like a party. It's like confetti. And the organic one, when it activated and it popped out, it automatically felt stable. There was no wobbliness to it. There was no, feeling of motion sickness with it. None of that. None of that. Not for me, anyway. I don't know if there was other people. There's people in the chat who activated the Merkaba in the organic way. Did you guys ever feel, because I don't remember, did you guys ever feel any nausea or lightheadedness or anything like that when you first activated? I don't remember. So I hope I answered your question, Linda. The thing is that sometimes you can activate automatically, organically. That's not even want to say that. You could be going through an experience where you're so immersed in love and so immersed in the oneness, okay, that your Merkaba could activate on its own. Would it be permanent? Possibly. Yeah, the thing is that you wouldn't know how to drive it. You wouldn't know how to drive it. It's like giving the keys of a really big dump truck to a 2-year-old. Yeah, because it's pretty powerful. Your Merkaba is very powerful. So Jane is saying, I love that statement. Not a two-legged truth, but a divine truth. Yeah, because as much as we want to believe that we're in our truth, which can be slightly different than the divine truth, right? It's because our egoic mind sometimes takes place. Rochelle said, such great info. Love it. I'm so glad, Rochelle. I'm so glad. Oh, Linda, you're so sweet too. And Rochelle, you enjoy learning. I can tell. Deborah said, I found it to be intense work. It can be. It can be. See, that to me, one of the keys to that, Deborah, is the healing piece. The more healing you do around your heart and those emotional traumas, it's not as difficult. It's not as difficult. And I can tell you that in order to be a teacher for Awakening Illuminated Heart, we had to go through at least three full classes, which means that the intense healing piece, it's called Healing Day. The Healing Day, we had to go through at least 3 times. And if you wanted to be a teacher of teachers, you had to do it 5 times. So I was on the table 5 times. And you do. The first few times is difficult because you're doing a lot of emotional healing. I tell you, if you wear makeup, don't on Healing Day, or at least make sure that it's waterproof, because there will be crying. There will be crying, especially if it's your first time. Deborah said, I wanted to check out the process since 2012. Well, yeah, that's what we're going to be doing in November. You're welcome, Linda. You're welcome. That's what we're going to be doing in November. Gosh, this hour went by fast. Faster than usual. All right, so what's going to be happening in November is, I'm going to get the link. Hang on just a sec. I'm going to get a link for you. Okay, so in November, I'm going to be holding a class here at Star Nations in the physical, okay? Because this kind of class, there's certain things that we could do online, but the actual activation of your Merkaba and also the Healing Day really needs to be done in person. And so the date for that is November 15th through the 17th, okay? And I'm going to put the link. Did I put it in the house already? I did. Okay. And I know what you mean. I know what you mean, Deborah, because when I was searching for information, right, and I kept going back to the Flower of Life facilitators and going back to that and knew it had something to do with that. And every time I was going to go to the class, something would happen. Either the flight got canceled, I didn't have the money for the flight, the class got canceled. I tried like 3 or 4 times to try to get to that class. Couldn't do it. So I thought, okay, I gave it the old college try. I try to make this happen. And so I just let it go. And a year later, or maybe it was 2 years later, I got a message from one of the Flower of Life teachers who followed Drunvalo to his new school and said, are you still interested? And sent me the information. And that was Awakening Illuminated Heart class in Sedona, Arizona. Yeah. Everything fell into place. I had my flight. Hotel was paid for by Paul's points on his hotel card. The class was paid for. Everything that I needed was right there. It was not difficult at all. Not at all. And so that's when I went. Yeah. So I understand for those of you who have been searching. And this is one of the reasons why my team has been talking to me pretty diligently, very, very, oh gosh, you guys, almost every meditation I do, they mention it. And so I finally said, okay, all right, then you're going to have to help me to do this because I'm so busy with other things with Star Nations that I don't know if I have time to teach. I really don't. And so I said, you're going to have to show me how this is going to work. Okay. And so I was supposed to have a class in March. Well, that didn't happen because there was other things that needed my attention. That was mom needed me, and that kind of thing. So we have this November class, and we already have people registered for it, and so it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And so, if you're interested, please go to the website, check it out. If you'd like to join us, please do. If you need to talk to me about it, just PM me, private message me, and we can have a discussion about it offline if you'd like. Okay? All right. Okay, so Deborah says, I was never in a class. Someone gave me some meditations and breathing. It was so hard to do alone. I'm surprised. You should actually be patting yourself on the back if you even got even a tenth of the way into that on your own. Because I went through it the old way. Yeah, it was pretty intense, and it was a lot of work to it. It really was very concentrated, focused. If you didn't have the focus, there was no way you were going to make it through it. The papers were about work about. Yep. Mm-hmm. I know. I think I know which ones you mean. I've seen those. I probably actually have them. Yeah, they do, don't they? Especially when they're nearly 100 years old, because that was back in earlier this year. Yeah, they do take precedence. So I'm at a little bit over the top of the hour here, but I wanted to thank you guys for being here with me, and helping me to go down memory lane. I was a little verklempt in a few places. I don't know if you guys noticed. Because the work really, really means a lot to me. It really does. It's part of my soul work. I know that. And so to be able to get back into it is a real blessing. It's a real blessing. And I get to use my gifts in a more expanded way, which is great, right? Which is great. So, okay. Well, you guys, like I said, I really do appreciate you being here, taking time with me on a Tuesday evening to be here. And for those who are watching through the recorded show, thank you too, because I know what it takes to take some time out of your day to even watch a recorded show. Okay. So thank you so much. There was one other thing I wanted to share with you before I go. And what was that? Oh, well, watch. They'll come to me at 2:00 in the morning. That's what's going to happen. Okay. Well, enjoy the rest of your evening. And if you'd like to have more information about the class, please visit us at our website. If you have questions, you can always send me a messenger message here at Facebook if you'd like, or you can send me a message at starnationspublishing@gmail.com. Okay? All right. So, Bama Mina. That's Potawatomi for until we see each other again. Love you guys.